This is Colin O'Keefe for LXBN TV. The FCC has been making a push to end sports blackout rules. This does not, however, apply to all sports blackouts, but some lawmakers have been making that a priority as well to ban even the contractual ones. Joining me now to explain is attorney Dan Kirkpatrick. He's with Fletcher, Hildreth, and author on the firm's excellent Com Law blog. Dan, first, can you explain what the FCC's recent efforts have entailed? What are they doing with regards to sports blackouts, and who do those apply to?
Sure. Just as a little bit of background, so the sports blackout rules as they stand now basically prohibit any video provider, be it a broadcast station or a cable system, satellite provider, from bringing in a distant signal of a sporting event if it's not being televised by a local broadcast television station. Where this really comes into play most frequently is in NFL games, because there are some NFL rules that if a game is not sold out enough in advance, that the local station can't broadcast it. The idea was to protect, local ticket sales and gate revenue. This all came about, back in the 1960s. There were some antitrust issues that the leagues were trying to get around because they wanted to pool their video rights together rather than have each team negotiate separately. And to do that, they had to get an exemption from the antitrust rules. They were allowed to do that. That allowed them to. Those exemptions also allowed them to black out local broadcasts to protect ticket sales. The FCC now, at the urging of a number of sort of fan organizations and public interest groups, have initiated a rulemaking proceeding to get rid of those blackout rules. This would remove those rules from the FCC's, rules, so the FCC would not add on its enforcement power to the ability of leagues to black out their local games. That would not affect the league's ability necessarily to, in its own private contracts, basically enforce the exact same rules. They could tell Dish Network or DirecTV, you just don't have the rights to import games into local markets if it's not sold out. So, there's a question, the FCC is asking the question, first of all, whether its rules are necessary in the general sense to protect gate receipts, whether that's really important anymore, where most of the league's revenue comes from its broadcast and television rights. And then also the secondary question of whether, if the league can just do this as a matter of contract, whether you think they're good or bad, whether there's any reason to have the FCC enforcement on top of that.
Absolutely. And then second, you're speaking to these matter of contracts. Has there been any movement on that front? I know some lawmakers have made it a priority to curb this favorable regulatory environment that the sports leagues have, but what's going on there? Has there been some movement by lawmakers to end these other sports blackouts?
There have. There have been a bill was introduced in the Senate by Senators McCain and Blumenthal from Connecticut. And there's a companion bill in the House. Both of those, what they would do is they would basically condition the league's antitrust exemptions on removing these blackout provisions from their contracts with the broadcasters and with the cable and satellite systems. The real thing the bills seem concerned about is removing a broadcaster's ability to blackout sporting events if they're involved in a retransmission consent negotiation debate with a cable system. What is going to happen with these bills is somewhat questionable. They've been introduced. There hasn't been a whole lot of action on them. I believe they've both been referred to committees, for further consideration. I would expect that they will get very strong opposition, both from the sports leagues, from broadcast associations, from broadcasters in particular, because sporting events are one of the main pieces of leverage they have over cable systems in retransmission consent negotiations. So to lose that would really be a game changer in that field.
Absolutely. There's been more money than ever pouring into these sports television contracts, even as the cable industry faces a wave of potential change, but we will have to see how much change actually occurs, though it is certainly an area worth keeping an eye on. Once again, that was Dan Kirkpatrick of Fletcher, Hildreth. For more of his insight on this subject and other related ones in the communications area, be sure to visit comlawblog.com. And of course, if you're not watching us here on LXBN, visit LXBN.com for curated commentary from the world's largest legal blog network and for hundreds more of these LXBN TV video interviews. Thank you for joining me today, Dan.
Thank you.